Hello and welcome to yet another Contributing.today meetup. We're live streamed to the 4Devs Twitch channel and hello Microsoft Learn TV. And of course here at Contributing.today, our website. So this is our open source meetup. This is what me, together with a few colleagues, thought would be fun to join together and share stuff around open source projects, around contributing. And this all started out with Hacktoberfest. And we loved it very much. And we said, hey, let's do this. And let's find some topics and cool people to invite. So if you want to look at previous recordings and interviews we did with maintainers and contributors, then go to our website, Contributing.today. There you can also join us for a chat. Our Discord channel link is there. And there's also an embedded chat for those who are brave. Now, before we kick off this event, there is a code of conduct. So you can find it at contributing.today /code-of-conduct. But it basically comes down to, have some empathy, be respectful, and, in general, be good. In case, if anything happens, you can find our contact details there. So just reach out to us and report inappropriate behavior. Well, that being said, welcome to today's meetup, which will be around the topic of Java. But as you have seen, I am not alone. I have Sandra with me. Hi, Sandra. Hey, well, maybe you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm a cloud advocate at Microsoft, and I'm doing everything around open source. I have the honor to interview some of the Java champions. At least we want to interview all of the Java champions. We just did a YouTube channel, and we contribute to open source technology, as I said, do some tutorials, write documentation, write also great Learn content. It's all for free. You should check it out. I think we put the link in the chat. So yeah.
Yeah, well, nice.
Invited.
Yes, and well, so nice of you to join us. So today's topic it will be Java. Just before we start with the introductions, I would like to share what the upcoming topics are. So next week we will discuss Rust, and the week after we will have Python, and we will be joined by Guido van Rossum with an Ask Me Anything. You can check out the upcoming meetups also on our websites, contributing.today. Now, if you want to shout out on the Twitters or any other social media, you can use hashtag contributing.today. And I'm stressing out the production. So let's see who we have today. Because if we talk about Java champions, we have some fun people coming up, right?
Yes, we do have the honor to have Bruno with us. Hey, Bruno. And
hello.
Verburg as well. They're both Java champions. We also interviewed them on our YouTube channel, so I already got in touch with them. Bruno is leading the Java team at Microsoft, and Martijn, we acquired jClarity, so we got the best of the best with them, as well as Martijn Verburg. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for having us. Yep.
Did I forget something very important?
I hope not. We can just get started.
Great. Oh, I think we did forget that Bruno loves YAML. So if there's any YAML questions that people have,
yes,
today, then
yes.
Bruno,
if you are a person that likes to have a ruler in front of your screen so you can edit YAML files, I'm here to help you. That there are better ways.
That is a great idea for producing spec, maybe like those rulers with the logo on it for the people.
Yeah, I was thinking about a ruler that also comes with a feature that hides your camera on your laptop. So it's all bundled. It's a single piece. You just put in front of your screen on your laptop. You got privacy and you got YAML capabilities.
Let's immediately trademark that because we need this in our lives. Yeah.
I'm patenting right now.
Good. Good.
YAMLruler.com, the domain will be taken.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, well, without further ado, because I think people did not join us today to hear us bantering. Yeah, take it away, Pips.
Cool. Well, I guess we thought we could give folks a bit of a tour as to what's going on with Microsoft and Java and what's going on in the Java ecosystem a little bit. So I do have some slides that I can try and share, which will help set some context. But outside of that, we're hoping this will be a bit of a free-flowing discussion. So if there is anyone listening live, then this is a great opportunity to get Bruno and I, while we're tired, because we're dealing with small children at home, that we may answer a little bit more honestly than we would normally do otherwise. So I'll let Bruno entertain you for a few seconds here while I try and figure out how to do share screen with multiple monitors here.
Yeah, we are doing interesting things. If you're not following Java at Microsoft on Twitter, please do. We don't post too much. When we do post things on that account, it's really like, things that we care, and we have been put a lot of love into it to produce to Java developers. So please follow. We promise to not spam you. We're just going to put good stuff for you. The other thing is the blog. We have a Java blog here at Microsoft. It's devblogs.microsoft.com/Java. I hope the producers can put that on the screen. Yeah, Java at Microsoft on Twitter, and also the blog URL. We have about 10 to 12 Java champions working here with us. Some of them are on Martín's team on the Java engineering group. Some of them work on the Azure divisions. We know at least 2 that are actually on the field or working with customers. So, we have quite a lot of Java expertise. And people wonder, is Microsoft using Java? Yes, we are, and a lot. The use cases that we have internally, some of them are around big data. So we have Spark, we have Hadoop, and what other thing that people do for big data? Spark, Hadoop. Oh yeah, they do machine learning with that, right? So the heart of machine learning comes from data. So we use the JVM to manage all of that data for you, and then you can go and write Python code, or some people write .NET code or Java code or JavaScript code to process and trigger those machine learning models that are being hosted in a way on Spark clusters. So Java is at the core piece here. It's a core technology at Microsoft for big data and machine learning. And Martín's team works directly with all these other divisions at Microsoft that host those data sets. And we help them optimize those runtimes, those technologies like Spark and Hadoop, so people can get data very fast and also at a low cost. So, which makes us quite an interesting team. We have JVM engineers that they write more C++ code than Java. And we have some folks that also spend more time looking at garbage collection logs to figure out how much they can save. And just to give you an idea. And finally, lots of subdivisions here at Microsoft use Java in the back end beyond big data. LinkedIn has been a great consumer of Java, and since LinkedIn joined Microsoft years ago, they continue to invest, they continue to grow, and that means more and more JVMs running inside Microsoft. And we have a couple other divisions, if you know, Minecraft and Yammer, they also have a lot of Java usage. Martin is sharing a PowerPoint. This is a presentation that was done last year, but it shows a good summary of the things that we are working on. And we do have some announcements coming this year. We're going to update people on Azure, Java on Azure, and Java at Microsoft in general. So stay tuned for that. Follow those channels that we provided. But if you're not familiar with what we have done so far and, a glimpse of what we've been working on, now is the time for you to stick around and listen to Martin. So go ahead, Martin.
Cool. Well, we'll make this a two-way conversation. So I don't want to give a traditional presentation because I think folks will probably fall asleep. It's not what they came here for. So Bruno and I will do our best to kind of give you some insights and give some chat around some of the topics behind the scenes here. And we'll probably go off topic somewhat, but that's all part of the fun. So I think the first thing to notice here is kind of our attitude towards Java here at Microsoft. So one of the interesting things that has happened for those who've been part of the Java ecosystem for a long time is that it's no secret that historically Microsoft and Java did not get on very well. There were certainly some even some legal challenges that were raised, and I think we acknowledged that happened in the past. But with Microsoft's new direction, let's call it 5-6 years ago, we're all in on open source, as Satya said, means that, Microsoft is taking a fresh approach to all open source communities, and Java is one of the largest out there. So we like to take a pretty, dare I say it, lighthearted approach with our developer community, but, a very professional approach with our customers. And we're kind of acknowledging here really that, we as Microsoft, we are kind of coming back to Java really, and we are, we've got lots of very experienced Java folks here at Microsoft, as Bruno mentioned, but we're kind of approaching as new people, as a new organization to the Java ecosystem, and so we're doing our level best to work with the community and work with open source, and we'll sort of highlight that as we go through. So ignore the agenda, ignore that. Obviously, we're under some pretty tricky worldwide conditions, so these slides kind of demonstrate that. You'll see there's more text than normal, so you can happily read away. So let's talk about some modern Java. So for a bunch of the audience, you've probably, especially if you are a Java engineer, I'm sure you've heard that Java is dead year after year. It's the new COBOL. It's going the way of the dead dodo.
Just a few times, right, Marty?
Just a few times.
Over the field, over the 20 decades, 25 plus years working in Java.
25 plus years. The one I love the most, actually, and you'll like this one, Bruno, is it's going to be replaced by node applications with YAML configuration. Like, that's all you need for modern.
Yes.
Services, right?
I like to say that Java was dead on arrival for 25 years.
Exactly. So one fun fact we discovered when we sort of put this talk together was that Java, sure, it is old, it is venerable, but so is the new cool kid on the block, JavaScript, right? And it's been around for just as long. But what's JavaScript doing right now? They're still building new build tools. They're still building new engines. What is it that folks are using these days? Is it Webpack or something? I can't even keep up. It's gone crazy. And of course, Python has had a pretty major resurgence, and that's a lot to do with the data science, machine learning Bruno mentioned earlier. But outside of C, down those low-level folks, Java still comfortably sits in the top 2, top 3 languages, as it has always done. And I think Bruno alluded earlier to some of the reasons why. And really, it's because Java has become what I would call an infrastructure language for the software ecosystem, right? If you talk big data in an Apache project, you're talking Java behind the scenes. You're talking about Zookeeper for config manager. Again, that's built in Java. So there's a lot of I would call plumbing or infrastructure, major infrastructure work, which is really built in Java, where it used to be middleware and web apps. And
the one thing, like, even if you're not using Java today as a developer, but if you are on Twitter, then you are using Java indirectly, because Twitter is their backend is pretty much Java based. And in fact, Twitter is part of the Java ecosystem as JVM contributors and JVM engineers. They have a large team over there, and they contribute. They tune it for their scalability. So if you don't see the Twitter whale anymore, like Twitter crashing, that's thanks to Java. So,
That's right. We went and replaced all that horrible Ruby. I mean, sorry, we love Ruby. But still.
Ruby's great. Ruby's great.
I love this graph as well because two reasons. One, you can see JavaScript and Java are tightly packed at the top there together, which is why we think recruitment agents get this wrong so much, right? They're like, you must be a JavaScript engineer. So it's like, no. But Bruno and I do like to have fun with our .NET colleagues here in Microsoft, despite Microsoft, of course, being the owner of .NET and C# and having a fantastic business on Azure based off the back of that. But clearly, Java is more popular, isn't it, Bruno? So we're gonna take over. We'll see how much longer Bruno and I last at Microsoft with statements like this. But
I always, I say this publicly. I think all technologies have space. It's just that sometimes developers learn a particular programming language, and they do try to apply that for every single use case. And we hear this mantra all the time: use the best tool for the job. And for certain jobs, Java and JVM-based technologies are best suited. So we see that with our customers and users, and internally here at Microsoft, when it comes to big data and processing data, like for machine learning, it's crucial that you have the data sitting on a technology that can easily scale and perform well and manage memory, manage data in a nice way without you having to operate and optimize that. So the JVM comes with excellent technology that you just take it for granted and use it. So I definitely consider Java a core pillar of any company, whether you are using directly or indirectly. So we here at Microsoft, we have our Java team. Because of that, we see that, we use ourselves, our customers use it. That's why we are heavily invested, and we will continue to be invested. So customers can be assured that there will always be a Java team at Microsoft.
Yeah, and I know a lot of the audience who are Java engineers are probably, many of you may still be forced to utilize Java 8, or for the lucky ones, you might be on Java 11. And so this next section really covers some of the evolution of Java that's happening, right? So Java is now being released every 6 months as a major version. And, it would be fair to say that Java, the language, stalled for a while, right? There were some challenges happening at Oracle and in the ecosystem, right? And so the time between, say, Java 7 and Java 8 and then Java 8 and Java 9, there was quite a long wait for folks to see some developer productivity stuff come through. But they've changed the way they really work at OpenJDK, which is the open source project behind Java itself. And so some new features are coming up pretty rapidly. So I'll try and skim through a lot of this quickly. So as I said, Java can be released every 6 months. For those of you who are concerned that the JDK or the runtime or the JRE is too big, especially for cloud and container environments, you can actually now package them super tightly. So by using the JLink tool and by linking in Java and JPackaging only the modules that you want, you can actually create these really tiny binaries that you can deploy on your small containers, Alpine Linux being a particularly popular one for those who care about size and space. The old days of Java not understanding containers, that's now gone. Even if you're using Java 8, a lot of that has been backported. So although you still need to know what you're doing, especially when it comes to memory management, and I'll get Bruno to cover that in a little while, generally speaking, the JVM will now pick up exactly the resource that the container is giving you, as opposed to picking up the underlying resource from the hosting, getting it all horribly wrong. For you big data themes, Java can now really deal with, we've got a couple of customers who are using 1.2 terabyte heaps, which is really fun. And we have the memory management algorithms, garbage collectors, ZGC and Shenandoah, which can now actually deal with that quite nicely. We talked about this already. Modern Java is really being used in the big data space massively. It's used by the tech giants, Google, Amazon, Twitter, LinkedIn, you name it. Here at Microsoft, we use it a lot more than people actually realize, and we'll detail some of that later. And of course, I suspect many of you are Spring Boot developers. As such, microservices continue to be really popular. So it's going all over the place. There we go. What else have we got here? Continue to be free. So there was a lot of panic about 2 years ago when it seemed like Oracle was going to be charging for Java and everyone was going to be forced to pay a subscription license. The market responded to that fear, uncertainty, and doubt. It's now very clear you can still get a build of OpenJDK from whichever vendor you like. It might be Oracle, it might be Red Hat, it might be Azul, it might be Adopt OpenJDK. And you can still effectively have your Java for free going forwards. So rest assured you don't need to pay if you don't want to. VS Code, the very popular editor that we have here at Microsoft, has got some fantastic Java support built in now. So if you're building those really fast little microservices, and you don't need a fully fledged IDE like IntelliJ, then the support there is fantastic.
Yeah, I don't have tried. I'm not familiar with this one, so I will read again and try.
So I think one comment to add here is on regarding to whether Java is free or not. This continues to be a hot topic. I don't know why. Maybe it's because licenses are written by lawyers. Maybe that's the reason. Right, Martijn? And the one thing that developers can rest assured is one thing: this Java source code, until today, is GPL licensed, which means you can download, you can build yourself, you can make changes, you can compile those changes and use it in production without paying anyone or anybody or any company. There are some debates, of course, whether
okay, Martijn,
copyright of APIs and whatnot. We just leave that for other discussions, perhaps with people more aware of the situation. But from us developers consuming Java as a runtime, the JVM and the Java APIs and Java platform, it is free, it is open, and you will never have to pay anybody. And that's one of the major benefits, continues to be the major benefits of Java, and as many as other languages. It's open source, and it's available. Now it's on GitHub, by the way. Oracle, who leads the project, actually moved to GitHub. If you go to github.com/openjdk, you get a nice view of the source code. You can navigate, you can search for Java classes, just look at the source code or look at the C code, C++ code of the JVM and see how it works. I myself was playing with C++ code. Martijn, you don't recommend that, right? That I go and edit C++ code myself?
Yes, I know that you.
Yeah, it's. I think our engineers have opinions about both you and I actually getting our hands dirty with code, Bruno. I'll put it that way. I'll put it politely.
I honestly was just going there and just doing an if def. I just put an extra if def. That's all. So I hope that doesn't break anything. But let's take a look at some of the updates on the Java language that we have on the slides here. And then we can discuss a few things regarding the JVM and the code. But it's pretty nice. Java is modern.
Yeah. So I'm going to go through these in really rapid order. So hopefully most of you folks who are Java engineers have been following along with what's going on. So the first one really here for developer productivity is the new var keyword. So a lot of people are waiting an incredibly long time for this. The local type inference that we have in Java now is so incredibly strong that we almost can always figure out what the type should be on the left-hand side. We don't need to be explicit about it anymore. Hello, I have a visitor. Hey, you want to call her, buddy? Daddy? Yeah. This is the joys of lockdown. We have 5-year-olds who come and help us talk about Java, don't we? Yeah, that's right. So I was talking to Brian Gertz about this feature the other day, and the really great insight about var is really that when you're reading the source code, it's not the type that is the dominant thing for the reader. It is actually the variable name. And this is important when you're trying to get the semantics of what your program is trying to do across to the reader. And so as long as you're not using variable names like X or S or single characters, and you're really concentrating on making sure your business domain is well written out, then using this, it reduces the verbosity, reduces the boilerplate in your code, but actually increases the readability of it, which is a really fantastic outcome. Next, developer productivity. We have text blocks. So for people like Bruno who love to write YAML or XML or JSON
So,
in
and
their
if
Java
you,
code,
if you already have
then you have this
in the
text block
that,
feature. Fantastic.
the description for privacy, we can
Switch expressions. Here is the kind of enhanced pattern matching that's going to be going on in Java further. So Java is looking to pattern match and switch not just on the Java primitive, so long or int or double or string, whatever the case might be, but to really be able to do it on expressions as well.
Daddy.
Yes. I'll let Bruno take over for a second here. I'll mute.
And at the same time having a manager as your father, like that's Martin's son Hunter, and every time Martin's on screen in our meetings, Hunter comes to say hi, and here we have to say hi back at him. So let me get to that back so we can, because Martin probably needs to stop sharing. Oh yeah, that's beautiful JDK 8 that you're looking at. So let me just open the PowerPoint on my side and you can download. If you are a Java developer and you have PowerPoint, make sure you have the files locally on your system so it doesn't download from OneDrive all the time. It helps. So Martin, I'm downloading the PowerPoint that you were presenting. If you have it, if you can show it again. And
I can now continue. Sorry. Right. Let the show go on. Right. So we were talking about switch expressions. So the other exciting thing about switch expressions that's coming in is that we'll be able to pattern match on the instance of. So for all of you who've been writing that horrible code where you do, I'll check if something is the instance of something else, and then I have to go and do the type casting in the row below, in the expression below, which is really irritating. You no longer have to do this, which is going to be great. Next one, records. So everyone's been talking about Java getting tuples or records or value types. There are lots of different names being thrown about. So the way that Oracle and OpenJDK are putting this stuff together is just piecemeal by piecemeal. And one of the first pieces is this concept of a record. So you'll be able to declare this data type, effectively, which does not have the internal overhead of a full Java object. So you'll be able to represent things like a point, which is going to be pretty critical for things like machine learning calculations and so on and so forth, without having the Java object header expense happening underneath. So for things like garbage collection, for things like other optimizations the JVM can do, will be able to be applied to all this stuff. So Java has now gotten lighter again. You will now be able to truly declare this type of data type. And there's a whole bunch of enhancements that are going to go coming in and around that, which I'll dig into now. So one of the extra advantages that is coming in is something called sealed classes. So sealed classes is the capability for a library or framework author in particular to declare exactly which classes are allowed to implement or extend from an interface or another class. So you can be very prescriptive about how your API should be extended and how it should be accessible. So I think we've all seen when we've all created our beautiful library or framework, we've put it out to the world, and well-meaning developers use it all in interesting and unusual and lots of incorrect ways. and you now have this capability of using the sealed type to kind of narrowly scope what people can do with your API, which is going to be a useful construct going forward. We have null pointer exceptions. You can finally, in a chain of method calls, understand exactly where the null pointer exception occurred and what field it happened in. And this was some fantastic work done by Gertz and SAP. Yeah, go ahead, Bruno.
Yeah, this is basically a feature that allows you to not have to edit the code just to see where the null pointer exception is happening.
Yeah, exactly.
No more slight modifications or code formatting trouble and all these messy things that you have to do in your source code to see where's this null pointer exception coming from. So
yeah.
it's a pretty nice feature. Thanks, SAP.
Thanks, SAP. And this took an enormous amount of time and effort to get in, because to implement this in a really performant way so that it performs well, because you're actually having to walk up the native stack trace as well as the Java stack trace, actually took a lot of engineering effort. So it really was I think it was Gertz from SAP who did this, and it was really a labor of love for about a year, I think, to get this in. It's an amazing piece of engineering. Smarter interfaces, that came in Java 8, so you all have this now, so I'm going to skip over that one. And of course, this is a little bit of pride here from Microsoft. So our group, we decided that, hey, people who run Surface Pro X's and Surface Duos, they deserve to have Java. So we ported Java to Windows and ARM. And that's coming out in Java 16, which is being released very soon now, April, I think. And then we decided, hey, we'll go a bit further. We'll work with our partner Azul, and we'll deliver it for the Apple Silicon as well. So on your Apple M1 machines, for all of you who are going to go out and purchase that piece of hardware, there will be a Java waiting for you in a very short time frame. And you can follow the GitHub URL there to go try those out. Cool. Just having a look at time here. Yeah, we'll talk a bit about this. Maybe Bruno can interject here a little bit as well. So I talked previously about being able to run a smaller Java now, especially in cloud and container environments. And here is a pretty big demonstration of that. So, traditionally, if you installed JDK and deployed your app, you're talking about 250 to 300 meg deployment. And you can see there with the custom runtime image, you are using a bunch of JLink flags. So there is a new command line tool that you do have to learn, which is called JLink. And once you apply that tool and only select the modules that you want, assuming you're using Java 9 or plus, you can really crunch it down. And as you can see here, this particular person managed to deploy their microservice in 34 meg size, which is a massive benefit. So one takeaway from this little presentation as such is, if you're not using JLink already, go investigate this as a tool.
Yeah, and it's important to highlight that this is not ahead of time compilation. This is not native image. If you are familiar with the GraalVM project, this is just the traditional JVM shrink to a size that only has the bits required to run your application. And with the JLink, JPackage, and there's another command line called JDAP scan or JDAPs. It allows you to scan your application and see which parts of the JVM of the Java platform your application actually needs, so you can shrink very like a lot from the JDK and just have the runtime that fits your app.
Cool. More kind of performance enhancements that are happening under the hood. So if you're using the G1 garbage collector, your strings are deduplicated. So if you, like a lot of unfortunate Java developers, I must say, are basically reading in JSON, processing it, and then spitting JSON back out again. And this used to be XML, but these days it's JSON, or maybe YAML if you're even more unfortunate. Then luckily Java does some automation behind the scenes there to improve the memory management side of things. We do have improvements to startup time in Java. It's not at the level of GraalVM or other technologies that are out there. There is a separate project called Project Layden, which is really going to look at the future of building GraalVM-like capabilities into OpenJDK. But that said, if you are using a really modern Java like 13 or 14, you will see out-of-the-box startup improvements. I will talk a little bit to this one. We also, interestingly, for microservices, have a no-op garbage collector called Epsilon. and it does nothing effectively. So if you are sure that your workload will start your microservice, execute the function, and then shut the JVM or the microservice back down again, and you don't want garbage collection to pause that microservice during its operation, you can choose the epsilon garbage collector and make sure that there's no interference going forward. So some folks find that useful.
Serverless.
Serverless for the win. And we have Azure Functions as an example here at Microsoft running Java 11. So you can choose that and go ahead and run that option.
We do not use Epsilon GC on Azure Functions, just to be clear.
Yes, not yet. We're gonna have a deeper look to see if it can make sense for all workloads there. Should we talk about microservices, the options, Bruno? Is that interesting?
I think everybody knows about the ecosystem. Like you have Spring, you have Java EE, Jakarta EE based frameworks like MicroProfile and Quarkus. There is one framework, this one, Micronaut, that does not fit in the usual Spring/Java Jakarta EE. Micronaut has its own API and does not follow any standard, although the design of their APIs are very much similar to the usual APIs from these other frameworks, but they just did their thing. And it's pretty good. I think Micronaut it's on my top 3 list. It's Spring, Quarkus, and Micronaut. If I were to build something from scratch these days, there are other options like Drop Wizard and Vaadin and web frameworks like Wicked. You can use JSF these days in standalone. There are many options in the market for frameworks for building web applications or cloud native applications in a way. There are even libraries for reactive development with databases, React database connectors. So the Java ecosystem is pretty diverse on that front. I think the one thing with cloud that developers should be aware is always how to size their JVMs, their Java workloads, and take full advantage of the cloud environment they're deploying to. So this goes back to the slide that we discussed before, like being lightweight, sizing the JVM properly, and then how much memory you're going to give. The one thing that we did discover over these past few months is that developers are not very familiar with how the JVM does sizing of memory allocation if you don't provide input to the JVM. So the JVM has some defaults. So if you're just doing like Java -jar my application.jar, the JVM will assume a lot of defaults that might not be the best for you. They work great locally on your computer. They might work great on a production environment for a while, but eventually either you are paying too much for a VM that the JVM is not taking full advantage of those resources, or your application is not performing well as much as it could, or both. So for that, that's one thing that we are considering, like, how can we help developers understand that, learn that, and then put that in practice when they do cloud deployments. We hope that we can share more this year. And if you do have questions on that, we are happy to answer.
Absolutely. So, look, Bruno and I both come from a very open source, free software, kind of non-commercial backgrounds for quite a long time, or small startups and that sort of thing. But of course, we did our work for Microsoft, so the cloud we recommend, of course, has to be Azure. We work here. We have to say, there you go, lovely big logo for all of you out there. There's a URL there for folks who may not be aware that we actually do Java. We do Java incredibly well at Microsoft now. So there's a resource there for you to go and check out. So a lot of people have been curious about Microsoft investment in Java, why this sudden turnaround, what on earth is going on behind the scenes here. So we'll cover that very quickly. And then I think we'll be close to wrapping up time. There's the link again for folks who are asking that. I've also been asked to apologize for my earlier vicious Ruby comment at Twitter. I think if they had swapped to JRuby, which runs on top of the highly performant JVM, they would have been just fine. So there you go. Right, so Microsoft uses Java heavily. So this is one of the interesting things that Bruno and I discovered when we kind of got together here in late 2019 at Microsoft and put together the whole Java engineering group. LinkedIn is a ginormous user of Java, right? It's one of the biggest Java users on the planet. We discovered, of course, that Azure's big data platforms all run Apache projects. That's all Java. SQL Server, good old SQL Server, the mainstay of Microsoft technology for many years. It's got Java embedded in it. Yammer, of course, uses Java. And for anyone who has a child or is a child at heart, Minecraft, of course, the Java edition is hugely popular around the world. And that's something that we are increasingly working on as well. There's lots of Java here at Microsoft, so we do actually rely on it a lot. And hence we have the internal expertise to deal with it.
I'll throw here a quiz. Go on Twitter right now if you're watching this today or tomorrow, whenever it is. Like, this is being recorded on a Wednesday. If you tweet this on a Thursday, that's fine. You're going to be forgiven. Take a guess. How many JVMs run at Microsoft, internally at Microsoft? We're not talking about Java customers on Azure. That would be cheating. So there's a lot. But just at Microsoft, for our stuff, how many JVMs we are running today? Take a guess on Twitter. Hashtag contributing today, hashtag Java, hashtag Java at Microsoft, hashtag Java rocks, hashtag Java is great. And let us know how many JVMs you believe we run at Microsoft.
And the person who gets the closest will get a free pair programming tutorial with Bruno and his ruler and to do some YAML deployments. So there's your prize.
I'll promise this. I'll promise this. First one to guess, I'll get you an Azure Pass. That gives you some extra credits on top of your free tier. If you already ran out of free tier, we'll get you an Azure Pass.
Look at that, free credits. Fantastic. All right. Microsoft, again, as part of our open source philosophy these days.
One question. And
very much that we give back to the open source community. So my group directly contributes to OpenJDK. That's the source code behind Java itself. So you saw the Windows ARM port as an example. We're the major sponsor, and we're on the steering committee of Adopt OpenJDK, which is the world's second most popular Java binary behind Oracle's JDK. And we're an Eclipse Solutions member, and Eclipse is kind of the de facto home for a lot of Java projects outside of Apache. And things like Jakarta EE and MicroProfile exist there, so we back that foundation pretty strongly. Talked about Java investments. So JClarity was my company. We got acquired in 2019. Azure Spring Cloud. So we're the only cloud vendor who actually have a proper Spring PaaS offering. It's proven to be hugely popular already. It's GA. And so you can deploy your Spring applications, your Spring Cloud applications, Spring Boot applications here, and get all the joy of a cloud environment. So you can auto scale, you've got security, you can connect to every data source under the sun, so on and so forth. It's very handy to have around. We have lots of tools at Microsoft for Java developers. So obviously we're here at GitHub, so you can now use GitHub Actions to go and fire off all of your Java CI/CD pipelines. Visual Studio Code I mentioned before. And yeah, most Java developers work on Linux, right? Well, you can now use Windows Subsystem for Linux and run all of your familiar Java tooling there, should you wish.
Martijn, there's one thing. You can just move on to the next slide, and then you can wrap up from there. I just want to point out, actually, you can stop sharing. We are at the top of the hour. There's one thing. Actually, don't stop sharing. Don't stop sharing. Go back. Open the browser. Open the browser.
Keep talking. We'll get there.
Open the browser right now if you're watching this, and go to code.visualstudio.com/learn-to-code. This website will show you how to download Visual Studio for Python or Java development. So you can learn either Java or Python today without much hassle. You just download the coding pack, either for Java or for Python, and the coding pack will install Visual Studio Code. It will install the Python or the Java runtime, the Java JDK development kit, and all the extensions required for that programming language on a single installer. So it's going to be pretty fast, pretty quick to get Visual Studio on your computer ready to code and learn either of those programming languages. If you want to learn JavaScript or HTML and CSS, you just need Visual Studio. No need for extensions and whatnot. Visual Studio is built on top of those technologies, so it's come built in. But for Java and Python, you need the Java runtime, the JDK, and the Python, you need Python. So that's why we have this coding pack. Take a look. Let us know what you think. Share on Twitter, and thanks for coming to our Java meetup. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and I hope you enjoyed all the crazy interruptions that occurred as well. So thanks all for listening.
So Sandra, you are muted. You are muted.
Somebody put us on mute. Let me unmute us. So that happens. Also, that you're on mute. So that's totally COVID style meetup. There you go. Okay. So thank you very much. Yes, and it's great to see that there's this whole package to get people started. So if you by any chance are watching this and you're thinking, hey, what would be a valuable programming language to learn, and how do I even get started? Well, we certainly heard the answers, that Java is a highly popular language, and we've got the tools to help you learn this programming language. So that's very cool. So thank you for sharing that. And obviously, well, you mentioned at the beginning, there's a lot of announcements later this year. So I will try not to beg for a scoop, because probably you will not give anything.
Probably not. Not now.
Okay.
Yes. So, but well, if I ask you, because like clearly what I learned is that Microsoft is has a huge Java platform. We don't know yet how big the platform is, because that is the question, which you can type the answer on Twitter and win stuff. But being a super large Java user, what is it that you see, how that experience might help improve Java? So if there's a wish list, what's on top of that wish list?
It's really. Oh, go ahead, Bruno. You go first.
Yeah, like when there are two pieces of Java actually three pieces of Java that developers want things from. One is the JVM, the virtual machine, like run faster, consume less memory, start faster, and things like that. The second area is the Java APIs. Do you have an API or a class for this, or a method that does this thing? And then you have the third part, which is the Java language itself, like the Java syntax, where you have some pieces of the code that will allow you different structures, data structures like records that we saw, or different ways that you can express an idea in the language, that the JVM then can go and optimize that in the processor, in the memory, and make that magic. So developers have lots of wishes on each of these categories. For Java language, it's actually common to see, hey, why don't the Java language has this feature on the C# language, or on Node, JavaScript, or Python? So that's pretty common. There are certain things that can be added to the Java language, but they have to be carefully crafted, so it allows the Java compiler to generate bytecode that is compatible with other existing features and other existing capabilities. So it cannot be just throw in something and just make it happen. It has to match, it has to align well with other features and capabilities of the platform, and allow for that backward compatibility of the code that was compiled years ago, so that the new code syntax can still interrupt with that old code. When it comes to API, it's even simpler. Can I add this method? Why don't you add this method? Well, there are many reasons why we should not add the method. Let's see what the benefits. If we just add another method, maybe now instead of 2 ways of doing this thing, now we have 15 ways of doing the same thing. Use this method instead of that method. So it's tricky. So there's a lot of analysis and studies from the OpenJDK project, especially the language architects, our friends at Oracle, that go through that process for months, sometimes years, to say, okay, this actually makes sense. This will fit well in terms of language features and in terms of API features. Finally, there's the JVM features. These features are sometimes features that can be done without affecting anything on the developer code that was written in the past or is being written right now. These are things regarding memory optimization, garbage collection optimization, tiered compilation, or just-in-time compilation optimizations that can make the code go faster. And you don't have to do anything as a Java developer. The JVM will do that. Some things.
Bruno, if you want to change something and make it better for the Java developers inside Java, how hard is that? You said it's tricky.
As if you want to contribute something to Java, it's not tricky. It used to be a little bit trickier in the past. You would have to go to openjdk.java.net, follow that process. Today, after Oracle moved OpenJDK to GitHub, it's actually pretty simple. You go to the project, you check out the source code of the OpenJDK, you make the changes that you believe make sense, and then, hey, you can propose a pull request. Now, it's important to highlight, OpenJDK is a very mature project. It has 25 plus years. It is used in very mission-critical applications across the globe, used by banks, by governments, by healthcare, by several industries, and by tech companies. So a change into the OpenJDK may have an impact that goes out of control. So that's why the process actually encourages that developers have a discussion up front before going crazy and making changes to the source code and submitting pull requests. So go to the mailing list, start a discussion with the engineers that contribute to OpenJDK, say, hey, I have this idea, what do you think? And then somebody can say, yeah, we thought about this 5 years ago. It was not the right time. It was not good. Here's the reason. Here's that reason. But maybe 5 years later, maybe you have a different argument, or maybe the timing is right for that feature. So have that discussion in the mailing list, and then if others agree, make a fine, very nice, well-written proposal, and then you start thinking about code.